Here we go.
Okay. Not exactly sure where we're going to go today, but just the events of the day, the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Maybe the true message of Aikido. And I think that's an important one, because a lot of times, what we do is, myself included, it's an activity. It's something I like to do. It's gives me a chance to get into my idealistic version of the world, things like that. And then occasionally you just get slapped around by the world. And, I'm not, there was a verdict today that I'm sure is very controversial, okay? And, what does that mean for Aikido? I would say that that's really the true meaning or the true purpose of Aikido. Okay. And I'm wearing this thing here. I am a fan of the local basketball team. Okay, but I like this image because it's a golden bridge. And we're really facing the reality that we're in a very divided country. And the trial probably put the country on trial, whether you approve of the verdict or don't. Right there. And so, one of the things that I guess is kind of, looking at the purpose of Aikido. Okay, now, for example, here in this insignia, I always like this because it's a reminder. Okay, Nado Sensei, he kind of said that Sensei had various reminders. He had a prayer stick, he had a fan, he had a bokken, and he had a book that he carried with him constantly. So there was something that would be there. And, I like this because it's a reminder. You may have a favorite, okay? In other words, I follow this team, okay? But that doesn't give me a license to try to destroy who they're playing. The actual sense of basketball game would be meaningless without two teams, all right? And of course, you may have a favorite team that you would like to see win. But really, not the opposition, but the fact that there's not an opposing team, but you can't have a game without at least two sides. And, I've always kind of enjoyed all-star games because being a Warrior fan, the other team's good players come in and you root against them or you root for your home team. But I always like the all-star games because you can say, I can root for other players that are really very good, but that don't play for, okay? I mean, this is a metaphor. Now, you do have side A, side B, okay? But this is a golden bridge. And you might have feelings about this side and that side. But the bridge, and it's a golden bridge that connects them. And when our sensei said, build a beautiful world, which is one way of translating one of his statements into English, I think that's fair. But, he was really saying, build the golden bridge. Now, that doesn't mean fall asleep. I do Aikido because it's fun or whatever it is. But the deeper message here, Aikido is that bridge. And then it's up to us to stand on that bridge. You may love the verdict today, or you may hate it, or you may be somewhat indifferent. From my particular perspective, I'm not indifferent. But how do we stand? Because it's up to us to stand on that bridge. It can't just be a philosophy. The Aikido is about love and peace. The whole country is in a horrible mess. Those are two truths. It's up to us to find that bridge and stand there. Ikizuchi Sensei would be training in the Shingu Dojo. One thing about the Shingu Dojo was Sensei's beard and hair were enshrined in the dojo shrine. The shrine was the showman. And he would say that, if you're training in Shingu, because there's, Sensei spirits everywhere, but, his hair, his beard and hair were enshrined there. Kami hair. But kami obviously has a meaning of spirit or God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. And so he wound up doing a work here. And his work was to create for us in this dimension the possibility of this golden bridge. And he was a person, so I'm sure he had his personal likes and his personal dislikes. Okay? And that doesn't mean that you put up with oppression. It doesn't mean that you necessarily pick up a rifle or a sword and go out there and be somebody who is empowered by a lot of juice and energy to go out there, okay, and try to be something maybe that you're not. And so it's a very difficult path for that reason. And probably not any more difficult ever than it is today. So what I'm kind of doing right here is between the fine sunny day and the tremendous power of a storm, there's that golden bridge. And some days you're in that fine sunny day, and other days it seems like you are caught in the storm. And that bridge is there, and it's neither, really. I prefer the fine sunny day. And, the drastic, monstrous, destructive storm is not where I want to be. But the Aiki is, first of all, finding that bridge. Second, choosing to stand there. Well, Sensei said, it's very easy to judge things good and evil. He said that ruins you. But the judgment. So standing on that bridge, you don't judge, and which is hard because my ego wants to be right and be on the right side. If I'm in the minority, I want to just look at the mess on the other side and be judgmental. But discrimination and judgment are different. Okay, we can judge good and evil, but there is evil and there is good. So there's a difference between the actual judgment of and a discriminating sense of. Doesn't mean you put up with evil. That's a very, very tricky thing. But between those two sides, finding that golden bridge, choosing to stand right there. Sometimes it's not a piece of cake. It's kind of nice, you know, when the dojos are open, the classes are running, and the training is good. That's the sunny day. Now we have a pandemic. We have tremendous divisions in this country, economic, racial, political. In fact, it seems as we're going forward, this turbulent storm is getting stronger. And the sunny day is kind of being pushed to the side, like a big cloud. What's this about? But that golden bridge is always there. And standing there, choosing to stand there on certain times is very, very difficult. But I think one thing O-sensei found, because his life was not a piece of cake. He went through the Russo-Japanese War, World War I, World War II, and he saw the country he was in, which was Japan, changing. You know, he was very spiritual, and you know, he's very wedded to the Japanese Shinto. And then World War II, it became state Shinto. So, you know, it's not that he had a cakewalk. That, you know, in standing on that golden bridge, choosing to stand there, you don't deny the other side. And somehow he or she who stands there forges themselves moment by moment. And the Japanese term for that is probably misogi, cleansing, purification. I get all these thoughts. And just to be very easy there. Yes, there is evil. But to judge something evil is a little different than the having a discriminatory faculty and say, no, that's evil. And it's a razor's edge path right there. And so for us to walk that path, what is that golden bridge? It's love. And, you know, certain days, I mean, it's a point where all the stuff going on in areas that I don't really like or support. To stay on that bridge is to have a discriminatory sense, not a judgmental sense. In my mind, my eye goes into judgment so fast. And when it goes in that, it spirals tighter and tighter, and all of a sudden, you know, I mean, I don't think I'll do this, but you pick up a rifle, you go out there. And, you know, one of the things is, you know, popular culture kind of has always been sort of, okay, you're the hero or heroine that goes out there with a weapon and does what the law can't do. And that's an archetype. And in popular culture, it tends to infuse the I with a lot of power and judgment. So being able to stand on that bridge is not a picnic. During good times, it is. But when we're confronted with things that happen today, it's not a picnic. Just breathing, clearing, opening, deepening. Doesn't change what's going on, but my position within shifts. In other words, I want to be able to act if meaningful social change is necessary. But I also don't want to walk out in the streets with a rifle or a sword, thinking that I'm sort of entitled because I got the message. You see, it's a very tricky thing. There's a society of laws which is necessary. But, you know, since they kind of tuned into a more universal law, and on his more universal sense of being, standing very, very fully on that bridge, being able to look at A and B from that sort of Aikido is discrimination. I'm judging, I'm discriminating. If we lose that alignment, we oftentimes go away from what sensei's message. It's easy to fall into hate and judgment. And of course, the misogi is the work we do on ourselves to stand on that golden bridge. Anyway, we're going to get up and move, but I just, anybody with a comment on that? Because it's, today it's just, some days you wake up and wish you didn't. Okay, anybody care to throw anything in before we get up?
Hi, Sensei.
Yes.
I just that it's good perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's nothing else you can do right now, except there is. Even right now, we could give into our hate and our judgment and our reasons for both. But the razor's edge path, the sword of Aikido, is not about cutting anybody. You walk out in the streets during a demonstration with a live blade or a rifle, you're off the path. You try to see the reasons for it, and there are big reasons. Black lives do matter. And yeah, things like that do put people in danger. But the second I think about picking up a rifle and going out there, I'm not on that bridge anymore. And do you feel like it sometimes? I think so. This is where, you know, the work on self, you know, just having your balance. I mean, if it's a Mad Max world, then we're all going to walk around with swords, knives, guns. That's entertaining on the screen. Okay? And if it comes to that, it comes to that. Some futuristic sci-fi drama. That's very entertaining. But, you know, if you're standing on that golden bridge, that's not the way you want to see the future go. You know, so, you know, what's the work here? Well, it starts with us. Okay. Anybody else? Dorian, see you're out there. Anything you want to add to that particular thing right there from your perspective? You don't have to say anything.
Well, I'll do it. Sure. Hi everybody. I noticed that this verdict has gone in under my radar, and I've also been unplugged from my news feeds for a week. So that's like those two things are probably related. But this is very relevant, I think, also to a conversation that I've been having over here in my space over here, with myself doing the work that I can over here by myself, about what it
Yeah.
means to use like I've been terming it violence, but we could talk about like the sort of Aikido, like I guess in the frame of being a bouncer or something like this, where you're like I've been meditating on this thing. Like there's one quality of violence that happens when people are reaching out for a resource to try and make themselves feel more centered, more whole somehow in a way that makes sort of extreme because they're like out of balance but looking for balance. And also there's on the other side here somewhere a sense of moving from a balanced place to maintain the balancing, to keep in touch with the front and the back of things, or however we want to talk about that kind of thing. And that like my two, like who stands in this place and this place are like the person who's got really hurt feelings and is drunk and is going to do something about it or something like that, whoever that is, and like the person who's trying to make sure that there's a safe space for everybody to be held and welcome and get like the stuff that they need and all this kind of thing. And this person over here ends up doing some kind of sorting, which looks like and meets the kind of like the violent thrashing that is going on over here. But like the most constructive frame that I have on it is like this is a tantruming child and this is like a guiding parent. Both of them are using the sword, but the sword of Aikido is like the one that sorts things out in a way that makes things better for everybody, like a surgeon using a scalpel instead of somebody who's hungry using a scalpel to try and get food from somebody or something. So like I don't know what conversation I walked into with the news today, really, but the two things, they seem like they meet.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you'd reflect on that before we begin.
Well, one of the things, I kind of this morning, I just got up after, the news feed and everything like that. I just basically I prayed. And, it's an interesting thing because, I learned kind of the Amatsu no Rito, the Kamigoto. These are like ritual Shinto chants. But what you're doing right there is you're invoking the pantheon of gods and goddesses. And since Sensei was Japanese, it is Shinto, right? And, in the pantheon, for example, Susanoo, the storm god, stirred a lot of things up. But it's kind of interesting that in Omotokyo, which was by far Sensei's biggest influence spiritually, Deguchi Onisaburo Sensei, Susanoo was seen as a redeemer, not as a mischief maker evil. And because I do all these chants, and to be honest with you, I don't know what the words mean at all. There are translations of Yamatsu no Rito and things like that I've read. It doesn't stay with me. But when I chant, the sense of the archetypes, the kami, sort of come awake. And this morning, I was really grateful for doing that because sometimes you just want to cross that line. You want to go out there and somehow, the actual chanting, allowing the archetypes to, an archetype is just an archetype. When somebody identifies as an archetype, then there's usually trouble because the energy of that archetype is more than, a human psychology can handle. That's why Carl Jung really talked about, the individuation process. The archetype of the warrior, on a very fringe day becomes the vigilante. The samurai sword master becomes somebody with an assault rifle or a rifle going into a very, very toxic situation. And it's toxic for a reason. And, the problem with it is that if you carry a rifle into a toxic setting and you have a particular belief, you're getting empowered by that archetype in a way that is not healthy. If you want to go into that, and the problem is somebody else might have a gun, which did come up in the actual trial. I'll tell you, I kind of track that because I have a really bad feeling about it. Usually, when I have a real bad feeling about something, there's a reason. But you're kind of empowering yourself with energies that basically you can't handle. And so, the prayers this morning were kind of good because, you're kind of filled with the archetypes. And that's what they are. And there's you on that golden bridge. If I follow one of those archetypes in a limited way, I'm not on that bridge anymore. And that's hard. To choose to stand there. Now, standing there doesn't mean you don't act. But you act through discrimination, not judgment. Anytime you pick a weapon up, there's a consequence. Now, since they did tremendous work with the sword and the spear, there's one picture of him with a bayonet because they, a weapon that he would practice weapon taking with. And also the bayonet is like a spear. I don't think he practiced really shooting with it. And so, because a lot of Aikido, there's weapons work, which is very easily misunderstood. Because we're training not for what's out there, but for what's inside here. Okay? And with that, now, for example here, this is the staff. First year, I like this one. That's a gift from one of the teachers in Shingu. Okay. I've been working with it. Now, while we're learning, skill, yes, we know. So there's martial skill. But you go out there with a weapon. Okay, now, all right, so let's just say, came out of the martial tradition. The movements of Aikido, physically, we're doing a weapon dart without a weapon. And he taught classes, but a lot of his own training, was really about the weapon became a vehicle for misogi. So yeah, of course, you're working for your own individual skill. But my ability to boom, to have a clear purpose, but also to examine that purpose constantly. Because I'm a human being trying to stand on this golden bridge. And you know, the divisions between that side and that side are getting more drastic. So the actual use of this, see, I'm starting to polarize. See, again, I go back to this image because I like it. This golden bridge connects this side and that side. And even the kind of the name of the team, right? Golden State Warriors. I was like, because what are you? You are a warrior of the Golden State. Doesn't mean you're a fan of a team that used to be in Oakland, is now in San Francisco. Yeah, and I am that, okay? But you're a warrior of that golden bridge, standing in that which connects. And again, what is that golden bridge? It's love. And the ability to stand there, it's not easy. That's why Osensei made such progress. You know, we can think of Aikido as exercise or spiritual jujitsu or things like that. But the purpose of, let's say, the weapon court, okay? Let's put it this way. That side Izanagi, this side Izanami. On that bridge, I'm positioning in an increasingly difficult place. I might be a fan of this or that. I'm finding my own balance here on that golden bridge. Boom, 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 boom. And these movements become, let's say, Izanagi, Izanami, boom, working together as a team. And of course, the better I get at standing on that bridge, the more they communicate and move together. So that's just a lot of work that I can do. So it's not about, oh, I'm better than I was. Or, two forces. The bridge is a connection between the two. Let's just call that bridge, that golden bridge in love. And there's me standing here. Right, so I'm in a very unloving space, which is usually judgment, anger, maybe even fear. So if I stand here that way, Izanagi, let's just say Izanagi is fire. Izanami, let's say is water. and they're having a big fight. Fire says to the water, I'm going to burn you off. Water says to the fire, I'm going to put you out. And I'm like a child here with parents arguing. And so, I'm in kind of a rattled state here. I'm going, because they're parents. But those sisters said the whole universe came out of water, fire. These are not so. The universe, my portion in it appears conflicting and very, very toxic. Okay. So, my position here can be so deep. For me, maybe other ways of kind of using it. Easy, open, settle. Instead of being so conflicted and judgmental, I'm starting to get some balance, the beginnings of it. Fire over there starts to kind of say, yeah, I can be all consuming, water says. I have my destructive side. I'm starting to be honest with each other because I'm starting to get to a better level of me. So, I'm sort of key right here. Yeah. Continue with easy, open, settle. The system starts to begin to clear. It's clear yet. All this judgment and hate. I'm starting to feel some balance here. What does it feel like? Feel calmer. Let's check back with fire. Fire says, I have my good side. You burn forests and everything. No. I can heat, I can create light and warmth, water, and I nurture. I'm very deep. Okay. Go back to. I'm starting to get a bigger balance here. I kind of know that because I'm starting to feel a column up and down, down and up. So instead of this dialogue going on, I'm kind of like a child whose parents were arguing, but they're starting to kind of reassert their love for one another. Of course, I'm standing on that bridge. Continue with easy, open, settling here. And check back. Fire, Izanagi. I feel like working with water. We can be a good team. I don't have to burn the water off. Water says, I can be welcoming. We can work as a team. What happened? My world, well, since I said fire, water is birth too. As I start to stand on that bridge, which means I am in a process. My own particular positioning within my own system, psychologically, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm starting to feel the root very deep. Conversely, space, heaven starts to kind of show. So my own position within myself, I'm starting to stand more fully on that golden bridge. I check back. With fire, fire is now warm, enlightening. Water, welcoming, nurturing, deep. Let me check my position here. calmer. So, big statement, instead of I am calm, it's calm. It's supposed to be more, I am more open, there's openness. Instead of I feel deeper, there's depth. Now, from there, the actual movements, fire and water, are starting to look at the theme. My own positioning, called I self, within that, so the actual movements will become less like I'm going to destroy something, and then it's a teamwork of fire, water, with myself as the, well, for want of a better term, the channel. Okay, so I do work like that. I should do more of it. This morning, I definitely needed to do a lot. Anyway, so I'm not exactly sure what you might have gotten. That's kind of my process, so to speak. I wake up and the world is, I just want to, sometimes you got to face your own insanity. I want to blow the world up. Things fall on me, I trip over things, the world is out to get me. But if I check, since they said it, everything comes out of fire, water. Fire, water creates the world. Okay. Now, as I get increasingly better balance with myself, I'll let the forces talk. I'm that person that's choosing to stand on that bridge. I can go into judgment, hate, okay? Or I can get oblivious, or I can kind of see spirituality as an escape. So I don't know. So it's just a little bit of a process I try to work. Some days better than others. Cliff, any comments on that? I know you tend to speak. If you don't feel like it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I like the idea of the balance.
Yeah.
In Jewish tradition, there was a very famous rabbi of the 19th century, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who said in Hebrew something that is translated in English as, all the world is a narrow bridge. And the important thing is not to be afraid. So yeah. I've always felt that O Sensei's Bridge of Heaven and Rabbi Nachman's narrow bridge and not being afraid were connected things.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that, an old friend of mine, I haven't seen her in years, but she said something once that I thought was interesting. She said, love at its core level tends to bring up everything that's not. And if you deal with that, which reward, you get more love, or you become love. And when there's stuff in here that's not, that's why, you can't just know about that golden bridge. I mean, if you choose to stand there, everything that's not loving tends to come out in sharp detail if you pay attention to it. And then it's process. On a bad day, I feel the whole world's out to get me. Believe it or not. It's like, oh my God, this happens, that's happening, why doesn't this stop? Well, years ago, I decided to stand on that golden bridge, didn't I? And what happens right there, right? What I try to do is, I can work on me. But the forces, the archetypes, fire, water, water, fire, I'll let them talk. I'm still positioning on that bridge. I'm like this on that bridge. It's usually fear, anger, judgment. I'm a child on that bridge, and my parents are fighting. How does that make me feel? Well, pretty extreme. So I find my balance, though, as my parents start to communicate. So I get a little better balance here, which is dynamic. It's in the moment. Like I had it 2 minutes ago, I can be back in judgment like that. But first, just talk it out. Check where I am. So that's the process I work. And I use, the actual, these are from the Misogi. I think this Wada Sensei, I did a lot of work with this stuff. And, it's deceptive because a weapon is not about being vigilante. That's taking an archetype and thinking you're the archetype, which will get you in a lot of trouble and create trouble. Because when you do that, you're possessing energies that are going to appeal to some people and really not appeal to other people. You'll be very divisive. And the whole act of standing on that bridge is to create the balance between this and that. Anybody else? Dorian, anything? And that's a process I work. May work for you, may not.
Oh no, I like it. Oh, I woke the baby. But you remind me of my baby actually in in this particular sense that having this baby here,
Yeah.
I get to see firsthand a lot and feel my own stuff come up firsthand a lot about the feeling of love. And another thing that I went through a couple years back, there was a lot of talk about attachment. And attachment panics of all sorts. Basically, like the feeling of like there's when the moment of the thing that's precious to us, the moment of love, of being held, of not having enough, like being loved the way that we need to be loved, isn't like immediately here now. There's kind of sort of a question that we go through of like, how do we handle the tension of that? Do we trust that it's going to be there? Do we have like a secure, like, yeah, it'll be fine? Or do we start to like freak out and try and control it and try and get out there to try and make the love come back, like get here and like start throwing tantrums? Or do we just like pretend that, well, love just isn't a real, or it's like there are all this kind of strategies that turn into, well, I guess I've just described neuroses, whatever. But
Yeah.
you're talking about coming back, working the process of being the bridge between these cosmic forces, to be loved by these cosmic forces as something that brings them together, very much like tiny people do, like to be the precious person who holds us together, and to kind of sort of, let it be okay for them to be their great cosmic God selves, but also let it be okay for them to find the good in bending themselves and being bent around, like you and your needs and your space to like all harmoniously coexist together. So like that you become the third magical force by standing on the floating bridge of heaven, to stand as a peer to water and fire, because you're a child of water and fire, and you get to be important to them like that, for whatever way. Like I've totally like walked across like 5 theologies of mine that I like and have studied, including like some behavioral psychology, but it's all there, and I think that's part of the important stuff, and where the nutrients of it are. Like you also remind me, like it feels good to feel like this similar but different way of walking into it that reminds me of my, like what I've been doing over here but isn't, like, and what makes me feel comfortable about that is somebody in a book that I read in one of those things, this term to define the term homologue. which is like branching, like you have a kid or something like this, and the kid grows one way or another, by based on like sex, presentation, characteristics, all that kind of thing. But they're going out of the same parts. They're the same parts organized differently, and like we all just end up kind of being that too in our inner worlds, in our dream, like in our senses of our inner selves, and in our mapping of the world that we engage with outside of us. So like, yeah, so it's I see all the same parts organized a little differently, but doing all the things that they need to here. It seems
Well,
like.
one of the things I would add, okay, this is, basically everything you said is real good, but, just if I were to kind of chime in from my sense of O-sensei's layout, so to speak, you're not the golden bridge. You are he or she who chooses to stand on that golden bridge.
Yeah, I feel the importance in making that distinction, like
Right.
the way that it's important to be the person who loves and not love itself,
Well, basically, though, if you were to say, okay, you're the child of water, fire, he's an Agni, he's an Army, okay? What was their parent? Love. So you are also love. You see what I mean? You are love. But mainly in this the constant movement of the creation, the universe, right? And we are he or she who chooses intentionally to stand on that golden bridge. And because of the layout of it, one parent divides into two to create, we're the child. We all come out of love. We all come out of the one. And then, many things come out of that, not just us, the whole layout of the universe, the creation. And so choosing to stand there is important, because if you don't choose, you basically get pushed around by the archetypal forces moving. And you have no reference point. Aikido was created by O-sensei, ideally. I mean, not for us to go, okay, I get to, like this world is so messed up, I get to go into a more archetypal, creative view of the universe. Well, the nature of it, when you choose to stand on that golden bridge, you feel acutely the imbalance of things here much more. And then continuing to stand there in spite of that for a while is important. That's why I'm saying you are love, because of the way things laid out. But the most important thing right now is you are he or she, or conversely, she or he, who chooses to stand on that golden bridge. We don't make that choice. We're kind of a leaf at the mercy of the wind. If you're a certain faction, you're plotting that this guy got off, all charges dismissed. And if you're on the other side, there are probably going to be consequences. Now, who do you stand for? You stand for, you choose love. And sometimes it means that, not that you love your enemy, but there's an area where the whole thing about an enemy, we all came out of something. Now, by the time we're here, there's all this chaos going on, and it seems to be getting worse. which makes standing on that golden bridge the more challenging. But that's really what Aikido is. I mean, there's other things. But, you know, the ability to stand there as he or she or he, doesn't matter, is to take responsibility for the fact that we all come out of love. And as I said earlier, if that golden bridge is love, that's what my friend told me once. She said, Jack, the only reward you get from love is you get to love some more. And love has a funny way of bringing everything out in you that's not. So that's why, you know, the development, choosing to stand on that bridge is a wonderful, beautiful thing, but also very challenging. Martial skill was very important to O-sensei. On the other hand, he kind of transcended that because he took all of that stuff into a whole different level. And I don't know, anybody else on that one? So we kind of did I do that process. This morning it was just so overwhelming. I had to kind of step it up. But, you know, the whole thing, for example, we're facing the fact that eventually, hopefully sooner as opposed to later, we're going to be relocating on 3rd Street with Aikido of San Jose. And, you know, it'd be nice to get the dojo going again, start kids, teens. But the overriding thing in doing that is to spread that message. I mean, you know, you can, people generally love what they like. But here, that love O-sensei was talking about, kami no ai, kami, fire, water, izanami, spirit. That is a different thing. And so, we're going forward, and eventually, for sooner as opposed to later, maybe the kami listen to this crazy broadcast and say, yeah, we'll kind of hone in and get that thing done, because some days you got to just wake up and you've got to kind of check the terrain, see who you are, check where your belief systems are and aren't. And oftentimes choosing to stand on that golden bridge, it brings up everything that's not. And oftentimes it brings in forces that need to be dealt with, that are not being dealt with. So, you know, the thing about the 3rd Street property, we're going to try to make that into our Homebrew Dojo West, where this message can be taught. Talk to children, teens, adults. Okay? And I guess that's it. Anybody with a comment? I think this is more a therapy session for us today. An important one. Anybody?
I think I would like to add as my last thing that I've come to consider every work of Aikido as also being a therapy session. It's just some are more vigorous than others. But it's all sculpting. It's all like trying to reveal or cut away or cut together to bridge the things that are love with the things that aren't. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that was O-sensei's message, right? Didn't say it was easy, right? And today we get reminded, days like today get reminded of that. Because I want to go out there into judgment and hatred and all that stuff. There's that part of me that's still alive. So on a day like today, I get a chance it just screams in my ear. On the other hand, you know, if you are choosing to stand on that golden bridge, which is Aikido, the choice. See, Aikido is not the golden bridge, although you could say, yeah, it is. Aikido wa ame no ukihashi. So you could say that. But Aikido is the choice to stand on that golden bridge, to, in Jungian terms, individuate your I self, returning to a level where you're really, you are the child of the two forces. And then you sort of become equal. Sensei would say, if you do Aikido, you hang out with kami, you become kami. That's a, it's a pretty steep statement there, okay? But then, you're part of the universal forces, and on that level, you sort of, sort of perfected standing there, things that come up. Part of your individuation process is to take it to a level where you don't get stuck in a lesser, tighter. And usually that's out of fear and judgment. As you do that, then the forces create a much better world. And that's about it for me today. So thank you for tuning in. Okay. Let's see, a couple of things before we go. Next week, actually, let's say it starts with Sunday. This coming Sunday, class in Mountain View as usual. Monday following that, online as usual. Wednesday, Elle goes in for surgery, so no Mountain View class. Thursday, Thanksgiving, we're going to take off, so we should do a Tai Chi session, but not next week. Friday, off. But Sunday after Thanksgiving, we'll be at the Mountain View class. Okay? And these are very difficult times, so they can either rip you apart or put you together. Okay? And I hope everybody here, maybe that we've done something collectively as a group to put ourselves more together. Okay? Well, thank you much.
Thank you, Sensei.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you, Sensei.